So, MatPat is an interesting figure here on this lovely place we call YouTube. He's been around for, honestly, as long as I remember watching YouTube. Like, I honestly can't really imagine a time where I couldn't sit down on YouTube and see a game theory, film theory, or food theory now video pop up in my recommended. I was never like an avid viewer of the content, but if a video that interested me came up, I watched it. I've probably seen like 30 or 40 MatPat videos, 50 maybe over the course of my life. So I'm familiar enough with the guy, but certainly not like a super fan or anything. However, he gets like a lot of shit online, and I've never really understood why. Granted, I don't really follow the types of people that obsess over content creators on the internet and every small mistake they make, especially when it's a content creator as inoffensive as MatPat. For some reason, people seem to really hate this guy, and honestly, I've yet to really get a really solid answer on what the deal is with that. The best answer I got was that he was racist. And the reason that I got for why he was racist was that he'd said the N-word. And when they sent me the clip of him saying the N-word, it was a clip of him seeing a color-inverted Pikachu and calling it and I'm going to type it out in chat as well so you can see it on screen so you know that I'm not saying something that I'm not here. So he calls this inverted Pikachu a Negachu, as in like negative Pikachu, inverted. Like Mr. Negative from the Spider-Man bill. I know. Clip it. Yep, I know. Yep. It sounds like the N-word. Clip it, guys. It sounds like the N-word. Clip it. I know. Yeah, stop. Come on. It's not funny. It's really old. It's not funny. I know. It's real. You guys are 13 at the oldest. It's very funny to you guys. I understand. I know. No, in all seriousness, though, he says it's a Negachu, and people interpreted that as him saying the N-word chew, and the reason why they assume that, I suppose, is because it sounds a lot like that, and also because this inverted Pikachu was mostly black. Yeah, it just wasn't a good look. And so when that was the only thing that I was supplied with as to why people ought to hate MatPat, I just kind of assumed it's more or less just kind of a nothing burger with him. However, apparently he did do something recently that is quite bad, and that is apparently peddling the idea that there is a non-existent ARG built into some Five Nights at Freddy's books, and yeah, I guess that's the thing that got him into drama. And apparently it was really I don't know. We're gonna watch the video. I think this is the video that got him in trouble. The game theory FNAF stumped me again. I believe this is the one. Let's go ahead and watch it. Let's find out what the deal is. What did he do that was such a massive fucking deal?
Would you look at that? Nearly 4 months without a single FNAF episode. Feels like it's a brand new day for the channel. There have been so many new games, new meta theories, even some classic science episodes thrown in. I'm happy, I'm healthy, life is good. And now, time to relax.
Okay.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show where old habits and old animatronics die hard. Today we're talking about the 12th and final installment of the Fazbear Frights book series.
Okay, do I need to know anything about Five Nights at Freddy's going into this? Because I've only played the first game and watched Markiplier play some of the others. Good, okay, I don't need to know anything.
Felix the Shark. That's right, friends, the final book. Until the next 3 come out later this year. Anyway, let's not think about that and instead focus on Felix. Now, this final book is special, just like all—
He's gotta keep on making money to donate to the GOP, I guess.
all the others. It too is a collection of 3 short, spooky stories vaguely connected to the wider FNAF lore. But where this one is different is that it's meant to be a collection of cut stories. As the official description reads, quote, stories that didn't make the cut for the first 11 books. Which, okay, they didn't appear in numbers 1 through 11, but still, they wound up getting published anyway as the 12th one. Is that such a big deal? In fact, because they're last, they're probably in the most important position of any of the stories. And while you might assume that they were cut because they were weaker or lesser than the 33 other Fazbear Frights that were produced, it's not really true. You cut the story about an animatronic shark, but you kept the one where a boy turns into a traffic sign. You cut Girl Solves Dead Bodies.
Oh yeah, I should clarify. Scott Cawthorne, the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's and the writer of these books, is the one who donates to the GOP, not MatPat.
dumped into animatronic suit mystery, but kept tiny guppy bodies? You cut a security guard named Mike going around collecting haunted FNAF memorabilia, and yet kept Fazgoo. The truth is, we don't really know why these were cut. It could have been a quality thing, it could have been that they confused the lore, or maybe, just maybe, it could have been that they were intentionally designed to set up secret puzzles that we were meant to solve, and those puzzles never got fully realized. Spoiler alert, I think it might have been that last one. I believe that Scott was planning to use this final book as a launching point, the start of a real-world treasure hunt that would have required using the books, the games, even stuff like the coloring book in order to crack. I suspect that this was a riddle so far-reaching and so complex, it would have required the cooperation of FNAF theorists from across the globe. Today, I'm going to explain the clues that led me to this conclusion, but more importantly, I'm going to ask you for your help. You see, while I'm reasonably confident this thing was never finished, I'm not sure. I can't be sure unless you all double-check for me. A few years ago...
This is the thing that got him in trouble, apparently, was he asked his audience to participate in all of this.
I asked for all your help in solving the security logbook, and a day later we discovered the name of Cassidy. Today, I'm going to ask you for something similar. I'm going to take you on a journey through some weird corners of FNAF lore and some loose threads that I see in this new book, and then I'm going to ask you for the favor. I need you to help me either solve this thing once and for all, or debunk it. And who knows, maybe this is the push that we need to get the next major answer to the game's lore. But before you help me with the lore, I was wondering if you'd help me in another way. It's time for our newest collection of Theoryware merch. And as always, you checking out the items goes a long way to help fund everything that we're doing over here on the channel. This collection in particular is going to be especially fun if you're a fan of analog horror, the X-Files, or Area 51, because it's all about conspiracy boards, sky watching, and secret undercover fact-finding missions.
Gonna need a quote that, MatPat.
Full collection. And as always, thank you guys so much for the support. Now back to FNAF. In order to unwrap the secret FNAF ARG, let's start by breaking down the stories in Felix the Shark, shall we? The final story, You're the Band, is probably the most obviously related to existing FNAF lore. In it, a small boy named Timmy becomes obsessed with everyone's favorite pizza murder franchise, Freddy Fazbear's. His mother finds him a strange Freddy mask on the internet and gives it to him for his birthday. After putting it on, Timmy starts to change. He doesn't like the things he used to, he becomes moody and aggressive, he even yells about protecting the others when Granddad walks towards him with a knife. Eventually,
he's just going through puberty. Listen, all right? When a young man reaches a certain age, you get moody, your diet changes, you start to eat a lot of raw meat, and you start needing to protect the others. It's just puberty. What are you talking about? Completely normal.
Timmy is led to an abandoned Freddy Fazbear's building by a shadowy figure. The whole thing gives off some very solid Midnight Motorist vibes. In order to rescue him, his mother...
Oh my god, is that the purple guy?
Teams up with a former Freddy's security guard named Mike. Turns out the Freddy mask was possessed by one of the children from the original Fazbear murders. When Timmy put on the mask, the spirit transferred into his body, which allowed it to control him. When Mike and Timmy's mom arrive at the restaurant, Timmy is on stage in Freddy's position, performing alongside Bonnie and Chica. After getting attacked by the puppet, Mike manages to get the Freddy mask back onto Timmy, which captures the spirit. He then puts the mask back onto the original Freddy head, getting the spirit back to where it belongs. Now, I gotta admit, I got really excited when I read the story. We've suspected for a while that FNAF 1 security guard Mike Schmidt was really Michael Afton going from location to location to undo the evils of his father, William. That's why we play as Mike through pretty much every installment of the series up through Ultimate Custom Night. It's why Mike's name appears in Sister Location, why Fazbear Frights burns down in FNAF 3, and why the security guard in FNAF 2 is fired for tampering with animatronics and odor, just like Mike was in FNAF 1. Up until now, that theory's never been confirmed, but this story seems to be strong evidence for exactly that idea. A security guard named Mike going around collecting the old artifacts from Freddy locations in order to help free the spirits of those trapped within.
I understand
so
this shit.
Cool and totally made reading this book worthwhile. Anytime we can get more evidence to support a theory within the franchise, absolutely worth it. But while You're the Band was
Is Mike the purple guy?
explicitly lore-heavy, the other two stories were equally fascinating, but for different reasons.
Guy's
There were details
son.
that felt odd or out of place, and comments from characters that seemed oddly specific in a way that just triggered my lore-hunting senses. In the title story, Felix the Shark, we follow a young man named Dirk who's reminiscing with his friends about their shared experiences with Freddy Fazbear's. However, Dirk's memory is slightly different to everyone else's. He's convinced that there was an extra animatronic, a shark named Felix. When his friends make fun of him, Dirk sets off on a cross-country quest to
It's the Mandela effect.
prove that he's not crazy. It takes him 6 restaurants, but Dirk eventually does learn the truth. It turns out Felix was made by the owner of one very specific Freddy Fazbear's after his son tragically drowned. Why would that lead into a shark animatronic? Because it was a shark that actually pushed the body back to shore. Couldn't make this stuff up if I tried. Eventually, Dirk does manage to locate Felix. The whole FNAF pizzeria is hidden inside an abandoned water park. But the weird part isn't the where, but rather the how of finding Felix. You see, Dirk is only able to find the pizzeria using a series of clues that are found in a random novel written by the creator's daughter. In-universe, Felix's creator also had a daughter who grew up to become a popular author. And in one of her books, The Dog and Dogmatist, she hides a series of clues in plain sight within the book's dialogue. These clues ultimately prove meaningless to the characters in the book because they weren't meant for the characters. They were instead meant for the readers to give them information they needed to find Felix. It is very weird. Anyway, Dirk figures all of this out and confronts the author. She gives him her butterfly necklace, and he uses all of this Indiana Jones style to unlock a secret key hidden in the bottom of an empty pool at the water park. The key unlocks the path to the secret Freddy's where Dirk finally finds Felix. And then Dirk dies by climbing into the tank with Felix because these characters always have to die in the stories. It's dumb, but you know, so be it. Anyway, you see what's so weird about all this, right? Out of nowhere, this story is talking about clues to a real-world location hidden inside of another book. Clues that are meaningless to the characters, but meaningful to the readers. Not only did this stand out to me as a suspiciously meta moment, but it also got me to immediately think about the previous Fazbear Frights installment, Prankster. You see, in preparation for the release of Felix the Shark, I wanted to refresh myself on all the previous stories.
Bro, there was this, like, when I was in the swim team, there was this, like, 8-year-old kid that I would see at the YMCA every day when I'd go to, like, swim practice, who would be reading these Five Nights at Freddy's books, and I'd be like, oh, must be some, like, kid shit. And it's like, oh my god, what the fuck was this kid reading? Jesus Christ. Some fucking bad parenting.
There are 33 of these things after all. It's a lot to keep track of. So
or maybe not. Maybe just some really cool parents.
turn to another book, the recently released Ultimate Guidebook, which, if you don't know, has summaries of literally everything that's ever happened in the Freddy Fazbear universe, from the games to the books to the fan theories. Basically, if you're trying to catch up with the series quickly, it's definitely worth a read. And since this is the third and final addition to the book, one written by Scott Cawthon, you know that whatever is deemed most relevant for the lore is going to be called out within its pages. Anyway, each Fazbear Fright story has its own little summary page providing a general plot overview as well as a list of connections between the story and the games. Not everything here is useful, but it definitely gets you into the mindset of the authors, and it helps you see some of the connections that the stories were trying to make. Again, if it does—
Okay, why, can we just say, why are we pretending as though Scott Cawthon hasn't been retconning the fuck out of this story since at least the first 3 or 4 games that he made? Maybe now he's got a fairly good idea of what the story is laid out now, but there's no way he understood where it was going to go when he made the first game, or the second, third, or even the fourth, I bet. I guarantee there has been countless fucking retcons and weird fucking backwards logic explanations for why certain things would happen when they do, plot holes that haven't been filled in yet that the fan base just kind of goes over. Like, from the small amounts of like Five Nights at Freddy's stuff I've seen in regards to the summary content, it sounds just a lot like it's constant retconning to make up for the fact that he never anticipated this franchise would reach the point it's gotten to. And now he's just being forced to continually just drag its corpse through the mud, keep on producing content.
Into the mindset of the authors. It helps you see some of the connections that the stories were trying to make. Again, if it doesn't make the cut to appear in this book, you're likely barking down the wrong path. Likewise, if something is called out within these pages, it's at least worth considering when theory crafting. TLDR, as I was getting close to the end of my refresher course, I noticed this in the new lead section for the title story of Book 11, Prankster. Whoa, some of the puzzle clues, such as Stinger, Moot, and even—
Like, do you think any of the shit that's being talked about right now was even in a conceptual stage in Scott Cawthon's head when he was making Five Nights at Freddy's 2? Not even 1, 2. When he was making Five Nights at Freddy's 2, do you think he even had a modicum of these ideas in his head? No fucking way he did. He's making this shit up as he goes along. Or at least he was until recently. And I'm willing to bet my fucking left testicle on that shit.
more frights and implications beyond the plot. Careful readers may want to give these scenes a second look. Implications beyond the plot, you say? Just like with Felix the Shark, it appears that the Ultimate Guide is also pointing us to meta clues within a different book. Clues that are meant for us, the readers, rather than for the characters in the story. So, I went back to Prankster. In this story, the main character Jeremiah is trying to save his friends from a mysterious—
So far, nothing that MatPat has done could possibly be interpreted as bad, other than perhaps some cringy delivery.
glitchy voice that's freed itself from a FNAF VR game that's being worked on at the company. Sounds pretty darn familiar. Along the way, he's presented with a series of riddles. Stinger Moot, which is an anagram of testing room. Give me one and I'll make more. Each one like the one before. What am I?
Yeah, no, it's literally D&D writing. Scott Cawthon, it seems like, has had to write this like he's a DM in a D&D campaign. He had like a decent idea of what he was going to do at first, like when he made the first game, but it was mostly just like a throwaway project, right? He didn't expect it to blow up the way it would. He never made a horror game before, and then it blew up the way that it did. There's no fucking way he had all these ideas planned out from even close to the beginning.
Our next clue contains even more frights. To get there, you just need to follow the lights. I see you're moving closer to your goal. Follow the lights to make things right, and for the key to find where your friends hide, roll up your sleeves and reach inside. Now, I've gone back and forth over these clues multiple times, but it felt like a lot of them were just pointing back to stuff that we'd already discussed in previous theories. The give me one and I'll make more felt like a reference to the glitch trap cult, using FNAF VR's tapes to infect more playtesters. The following the lights clues maybe could
what
be a
is he
reference to Princess
talking
Quest, where
about?
we have to light the lanterns to reveal the truth and eventually set Vanessa free, but none of this was new information. We've talked about all of this stuff in depth. Security Breach seemed to confirm some of this stuff. And to be honest, the connections I can make were speculative at best. I tried rearranging the letters in the anagram.
Hold on, there's just a white woman jump scare in SCP. Sorry, the Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, right? There's just a white woman jump scare. Yeah, I seen that. I thought it was very funny. I thought it was very funny. It's just a jump scare in that game. It's just a white woman jump scare.
Grams didn't really get anything interesting. I even considered that maybe the Stinger, Moot, and even more Frights clues were literal. The Stingers of the Fazbear Frights books were the epilogues about the Stitch Raid, so maybe if the Stinger is Moot, then the Stitch Raid stuff is ultimately meaningless. Even more Frights might refer to the next set of books, Tales of the Pizzaplex. I mean, sure, that's a valid explanation, but it was speculation at best, and also pretty darn lame. Why would you go to all the trouble of hiding meta clues like this about stuff that feels ultimately underwhelming? These aren't really questions that people were asking themselves, you know? So, at least according to the Ultimate Guide, there's definitely something hidden inside of that prankster story, and I'm not exactly sure what it is, but there was even more that was suspicious with Felix the Shark. You see, Dirk doesn't just find the secret Freddy's thanks to to written clues inside of a random book, there's also a very specific drawing in the middle of that book. Here's the full quote when describing The Dogged Dogmatist, the book where the hidden clues are from. Quote, "The man's search for the creature was convoluted on the whole, but certain lines in the book went beyond convoluted. It just didn't make sense. Neither did the drawing in the middle of the book. An ornate and frilly sketch of what looked like..."
Why are we watching this? Because this video caused a shit ton of controversy. We haven't gotten to the part that did yet, but the video's almost over, so we must be close. Otherwise, I'm gonna lose my mind if this is what made the internet lose their mind. If like, it doesn't get bad, I will lose my fucking mind.
Butterflies and flowers. The drawing was never referred to in the book, and it couldn't be related to any of the story. Were the odd lines and drawings some kind of code? For what purpose? And that's not the only time drawings are brought up in this one story. There was yet another odd reference in Felix the Shark that jumped out to me. Quote again, "I'd forgotten all about Freddy's, but yeah, now I remember. I loved the Freddy's coloring books. That's what started my drawing. Eventually I got tired of coloring and just drew the figures. Last year, the official FNAF coloring book released, which for a normal franchise would be a big old who cares moment. But here, where the biggest character reveals happened in a spin-off children's activity book, yeah, I wouldn't put anything past this franchise. So it felt strange to mention a real-world item for it only to mean nothing. So, of course, I bought myself the coloring book and the official How to Draw book. I went through the pages over and over and over again, but the only thing I was drawing was a blank. Seriously though, I couldn't find anything. Loads of cool pieces of artwork, like this twisted Chica that's only ever mentioned by name, but nothing major. I checked with black lights, I heated up a page or two to see if it would reveal some invisible ink. Nothing. Or at least nothing that I could find. And then it hit me. What if this wasn't about solving a mystery within the story, but instead something bigger, something more real? The clues in Dirk's book didn't make any sense until you were in the right place at the right time. This could all be hinting at an ARG, where just like Dirk, if you find the location, suddenly the clues that people have been theorizing about for months start to fall into place. Which leads us to the final story of Felix the Shark, the scoop. In this story, a young girl named Mandy is an online FNAF theorist. No joke, she even signs off on her posts by saying, and I quote, "I can't share all my secret facts yet until I solve this game theory." Anyway, Mandy digs through the code of FNAF 3, literally FNAF 3 the game. It is mentioned explicitly, only to discover a hidden picture of a building. She tracks it down and she learns about a real-life missing children's incident. After a few nightmares where the spirit of the dead child appears, she ends up going to the location only to find an old animatronic bear giving off a nasty smell. Surprise, surprise, the kid was inside of there the whole time. Mandy is praised as a hero for finally finding the missing child, and she closes out her blog by saying, quote, "We'll probably never know for certain how this mysterious building is connected to the FNAF universe. The only thing I am certain of is if the creator wanted us to know, I think he would tell us." Wow. Just wow. Feeling a bit attacked, not gonna lie, though, in my defense, if we waited for Scott to tell us anything, we'd know next to nothing about this franchise's lore. Just saying. Anyway, outside of the heavy references in this story to theorists and the real-world game of FNAF 3, the weirdest thing about this one is that it contains a lot of specific details as to where the events of the story take place. 33 Fazbear Frights in, and no other story in the franchise features this level of detail. The cities, the street names, file names, locations of buildings, details that are seemingly inconsequential to the greater story, and in pretty much every other book would be skimmed over or kept vague. When Mandy finds this mysterious image in the game files, she traces it back to Utah. Yes, the actual US state. This fact is further solidified when Mandy's mom takes her on a business trip to Cedar City, a real city in Utah, to complete the investigation. Now this is where the trail starts to go cold, because what Mandy's looking for is an old cinema on Willowfield Road in Peace Valley, which after a lot of Google searches I can tell you just doesn't exist, at least not in Utah. However, in the story we do learn that Peace Valley is only 15 minutes on highway from Cedar City, so I looked up where you can drive to in 15 minutes from the center of Cedar City, and it turns out there's a very small town just to the south called Canaraville, so I hopped onto Google Street View to check out other details that the book mentioned, like the old cinema, which used to be a pizzeria, as well as having a post office on the corner. Unfortunately, neither of these things seem to exist in Canaraville. They do have a post office, and it's near a corner, but it's more like in the middle of the street. And so shy of me buying a plane ticket to go to the middle of nowhere Utah myself, my options were once again drying up. So, okay, but what about the actual game? The game Mandy is playing is specifically called out to be FNAF 3. I wondered if Scott had maybe retroactively put a file into the game that maybe everyone's missed, so I went over to Steam and looked at the update logs, but the game hasn't been updated since April of 2015. And I very much doubt that Scott's been playing a 7-year-long con, especially since Into the Pit, the first Fazbear Frights book, didn't hit store shelves until December of 2019. But Mandy wasn't just playing FNAF 3, it's explicitly mentioned that she's playing the FNAF 3 mobile port. So I took a look at those update logs. Same situation. The game hasn't been updated since February of 2020. Now, we don't know when this story got cut in the 2 years of Fazbear Frights run, so it could have been in existence then, but I'll be honest, I do not have the elite hacker skills to bust open a mobile game to look for the files. And so, just like that, I was out of options, out of clues, out of ideas. Gotta be honest, I feel kinda defeated on this one. Weeks of looking through these books trying to find something that just wasn't clicking, and yet I couldn't shake it. The whole thing gave me some big Gravity Falls ARG vibes. For those of you who don't know, one of my favorite TV shows of all time, Gravity Falls, did this massive globe-spanning ARG back in 2016. It was a series that was all about hidden mysteries, ciphers, secret codes, complete with a book, much like the survival logbook, that you could buy that contained puzzles and secrets for the fan community to solve. And this ARG, launched after the conclusion of the show, tasked fans of the series from all corners of the map to work together in a quest that would eventually lead them to a statue of the show's villain, Bill Cipher, hidden out in the middle of the woods. Maybe FNAF was seeding out clues for something similar. Or maybe there were plans to do a similar sort of treasure hunt, but the plans got scrapped along the way. I can't be sure, but there were just too many weird details here that didn't seem to be mere coincidences. Regardless, I'd been vested, but that didn't mean I was done. The last time I felt like this was when the survival logbook released, but instead of giving up, I threw the clues that I'd noticed out to you guys, the theorist community, to help me solve it, and you came through. We found Cassidy's name, a name that has since been confirmed by Scott himself. So here I am again at the end of my tether, asking you for help once more. It seems like something's here, but if it is, I can't figure it out on my own. Maybe you're a theorist from Utah and you know the locations I'm talking about. Maybe you do know how to break open the files of a mobile game. Maybe you're as obsessed with this franchise as I am, and you too have the coloring book, and you notice something on those pages that I don't. We haven't let FNAF beat us yet, and we're sure as heck not gonna let it happen today.
Wait, this isn't even that bad. Like, I get being upset about, like, telling potential kids to, like, look for real life locations and going there, but like, are you serious? That's it? Like, this was trending on Twitter. People were losing their minds over this. Like, gimmick accounts were saying, sorry for going out of character, but I really need to talk about what MatPat did. Please do not do what he said. Do not listen to what MatPat did. It's like, oh my god, is that really it?
If you think you've gotten yourself some answers, or maybe just another lead, head on over to the Game Theorist subreddit to post your findings. I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on this one, because, like you, I want to see this franchise solved. Link is down in the description below to check out the Game Theorist subreddit. And speaking of what's below the video, one final reminder about the new Theoryware, which is available now. It's one of the biggest launches that we've done in terms of sheer number of items available.
Yeah, that was it? I've said it once, and I'll say it again. Once you reach a certain point of, like, online prominence, it doesn't matter how clean you keep your nose. People will find a way to justify attacking you over a cough, all right? If you keep your nose too clean, they'll start lowering the bar of what they can attack you for. Like, they'll start lowering the bar of what is considered, like, an action worthy of massive amounts of dogpiling and cancellation. All right, listen. This is his apology video. It's called Stop the FNAF ARG Hunt. Stop saying it like FNAF. It's FNAF. FNAF? No, it's FNAF. Fuck you.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to the couch video that I never expected that we'd have to make. I am literally headed out the door into the airport in like 45 minutes, but I felt like I needed to sit down on the couch and address a very important issue that I've seen come up in the last 48 hours. I guess by the time this video goes live, might be closer to 72. We're going to try to get this out the door as fast as possible. But anyway, very recently, since our last episode, a few days ago, we posted this. The latest episode about our good old buddy FNAF, discussing the latest book in the series, Felix the Shark. Not a particularly great book, but also not the worst in the series. Looking through this book, we found several details that I thought were pretty darn interesting. Clues that seem to be pointing towards the existence of some sort of FNAF ARG that never got off the ground.
Yeah, he looks frazzled. He's sweating
out there in the ether that no one had actually stumbled across yet. So in that video, I asked you, the FNAF fan base and fellow theorists, to look into the game files of the FNAF 3 mobile game port, because that was explicitly mentioned in the novel. Or the locals of towns that were mentioned in the book itself to let us know if we had maybe missed something about the geography of these local towns. At least that was my intention in making this video. I mean, ARGs happen all the time, and we've covered them before in episodes like the Inscription series or Wilbur, so it's ARG, so why?
Like, this is not like he has nothing to explain himself for here. He really doesn't.
Would this one be any different? Over the years, you, as the community, have dug up all kinds of clues for us, and so I was hoping, hey, our collective hive mind would be able to do it again. I figured that people who knew the history of the franchise and this channel would act in a safe and responsible way when it came to looking into something like this. And admittedly, millions of you did. There are millions of views on that video, and the vast majority of you either just watched it and kind of let it circulate through your YouTube feed, or, you know, you maybe dug through a couple of game files, whatever. Unfortunately, a few hundred of you, it's hard to gauge the actual numbers of this thing, but whatever the number was too many. Some people actually called actual places of businesses in the towns that were referenced in the book. According to our subreddit,
so this is what was the issue.
Enough annoying phone calls that they actually had to shut off their phones. See this? This is me internally screaming right now. Just to be absolutely crystal clear beyond a reasonable doubt, stop. Please stop. I don't know if you can tell, but I was not expecting this. And honestly, this issue caught all of us off guard. I never wanted or intended anyone to bother real people, and it's never, ever acceptable to harass an individual or a place of business. Period. End of story. And here's the thing.
Okay. We talked earlier about the responsibility that content creators have with their messaging on their platform and having a large audience, so I don't want to contradict that here. But I feel like this is the opposite end of the spectrum, right? I feel like this is the extent where, like, okay, there's a certain point where you can't really realistically control your entire audience, okay? When your entire channel is based on the idea of, like, poring over videos, game files, and books to find small details and make theories, and you, like, ask your audience for help with that, I think it's reasonable to be able to do that and expect your audience to not then go and, like, dig through those books, find a business, and start spamming that business with calls and force them to, like, shut down or whatever. I think it's reasonable for him to expect his audience wouldn't have done something that goddamn insane. So, considering that's never happened before, but Jesus Christ. But yeah, he said, help me solve this mystery. It is reasonable to assume that people won't be fucking weird about it. Yeah, like, it's nothing like this has ever happened in the past, from what I can tell. Like, it seems like his community and his subreddit have always been, like, a fairly responsible, theorizing community, I guess.
don't think most of you were intending this, even if you were calling these places up. But consider this. You are a single person researching an online mystery, but if, say, 100 other people researching that same online mystery all call the same phone number asking the exact same question, yeah, that's going to get bad in a hurry. So this is me formally saying to those business owners, those members of the community, individuals who may have felt harassed or burdened by this, I am sorry. I am so sorry.
Yeah, I'll say they definitely deserve an apology. And I guess MatPat would be the best person to give it because he's sort of like the face of what happened, but like the people who actually owe them an apology would really be the people who are spamming them with calls. Though another call with an apology is the last thing they want.
It was never my intention to cause issues for people or businesses. And again, to the loyal theorists watching this video, stop. Cannot make that clear enough. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but this is not the way to do things. It is never acceptable to call someone or their place of business to look for lore in a video game.
True, don't do
never,
that.
Ever
Don't
post
do it.
addresses or phone numbers, even for publicly listed businesses. It's just not appropriate. And as someone who's had to endure that level of harassment in the past, it is not something that I would ever wish on anyone. It's totally inappropriate for anyone, but especially this community, the game theorist community, which I consider to be smart and respectful. So even if you mean well, just stop. I appreciate it, but now is the time to call this one off. So now that we've got the most important message out there into the universe, I want to lay a few solutions for the future, because just addressing the issue here doesn't really get down to the root of the problem or how we can prevent this moving forward. Because here's the thing, I love ARGs. You clearly love ARGs. They are some of the most fun content that we get to cover on these channels. I mean, even Food Theory got itself a freaking ARG with Omega Mart, and we are going to keep covering them like we've done many times in the past with Inscription and Fortnite. This whole time, I keep asking myself, what happened here? If we had done an episode on the Gravity Falls ARG back when that was still going on, which I even call out in the video in question, would things have been different? Because that Gravity Falls ARG also required people to share clues online and act as a global community. It required them to go to real-world locations to find real-world treasure. And let's be honest, if anything, ARGs are becoming more mainstream, because everything from classic science fiction to sitcom seems like it has an ARG coming out. We, as a set of channels whose whole shtick is to talk about mysteries in video games, TV, and movies, need to be able to discuss these sorts of things happening in the media around us. That's when the solution hit me. There's no protocol in place. We've never been taught officially the rules and etiquette of doing an ARG, a puzzle that crosses from the online world into the real world. And this FNAF ARG just wound up being the first one that a lot of you were exposed to. And hopefully, maybe you just weren't aware of the etiquette of solving these sorts of puzzles. Etiquette that is built in with the express purpose of avoiding these sorts of problems that happen when the internet and the real world collide. There are great ways to make ARGs, but there are equally great ways to solving ARGs. So how do we move forward in a safe way? Education, talking openly about this, and just coming up with a written list of stuff that we all just have an inherent understanding that we follow. I honestly think that the vast majority of people out there who were calling up places of business or looking for clues in real life were doing so earnestly. They had no ill intent. They were just not realizing that this was out of bounds to call a place of business and ask them about a video game. It was wrong, but that's a far cry from malicious. They didn't know the rules of these sorts of games. So I want to make it very clear that if and when we reference ARGs on the channel, that there's going to be a clear set of guidelines that every single person should be aware of and follow. I'll actually reference this video many times if we ever do something like this in the future. We've never had this sort of issue come up in the past, but now that it's here, it's time that we move forward as responsible human beings. We set expectations for ourselves.
I respect that. I respect that he was able to turn this video into something that was like a little more useful, you know? Like, hey, my community, a lot of you are pretty young. You probably haven't really done an ARG before, or really like, you probably don't know the etiquette of what you're supposed to do when you do something like an ARG. Yeah, I'm glad that he turned it into sort of like a PSA for his audience in a way. So it wasn't just like a, you know, as Sean had said, a head-ass YouTuber apology.
Our community, and hopefully for the wider internet. And I'm doing this right here on the channel instead of posting this as a bulleted list on Reddit or on Twitter, mostly because I want to make sure that all of you who saw that original video have the best shot possible of seeing this video as well. To make it very clear that our first priority as an online community, as theorists and as puzzle solvers, is to act safely and responsibly. And if you think that we've missed anything here, like I said, we kind of rushed through this, everyone on the team kind of brainstormed this very quickly, but please put it down in the comments. We'll add it to the official list. First, and absolutely most importantly, never, ever, ever publish someone's private information online.
True.
Even if you think there's the slightest remotest possibility that it could be associated with an ARG. That is called doxing, and it is probably the biggest internet-wide no-no, period. End of story. Spoiler alert, there are going to be no clues in there. Rule 2, and associated with that last point, stick to publicly available information. No hacking or uncovering something that involves accessing private information about a person or business. I know, it's exciting. ARGs feel like this big, exciting mystery, and it's like, I'm living out my hacker fantasies. But remember, they are games that are meant to be played with the public, so keep them in the public sphere. Rule number 3, some ARGs, including very famous ones like the Gravity Falls ARG, will require you to go to real-world locations, or some representative of your puzzle-solving team to go to a real-world location. These will almost always, in fact, they should always be public spaces, and places that do not require you to interact with a person, go onto any private property.
I've never done an ARG before, but this almost seems disrespectful to say, like, to make a comparison to, but I guess it's like the closest that I can really draw here. But when many of you guys are probably familiar with Etika's suicide, the YouTuber live streamer Etika. He streamed on Twitch for a very long time, but towards the end he streamed it on YouTube because Twitch banned him, and YouTube was the only place that would have him at that point. And when he went missing, because he went missing for a couple days, it was 3 days actually, 3 agonizingly long fucking days he was missing. Now, I was a massive Etika fan, especially because at the time, I was a very avid 2B2T player, and two of my favorite things, 2B2T, the Minecraft server, and Etika, had just crossed over. Etika had just joined 2B2T and become a player on there. That, like a couple weeks before his death. So I was watching Etika more than I ever was that time, and I was more invested in his community and whatnot more than I ever was at that time. In fact, if you go to Etika's Twitter account right now and you scroll back a bit, you'll see a 2B2T meme, a 2B2T / Avengers Endgame meme I made under the name PigPuncher368 on Reddit that he posted and said he really liked. So I was actually like, sometimes unironically, when I like see like an Etika Memories post and I get like a little emotional about it, I'll go look at that and I'll be like, I'm glad Etika liked my meme. I'm glad he liked the meme that I made. It took me like 2 minutes to make in Photoshop, but he fucking liked it, and that makes me a little happy. But when he was missing for those 3 long agonizing days, I was in this Discord server, couple actually, but the main one I spent most of my time in was this Find Etika Discord server, and we spent a lot of time in like the VC, like going over like the video that he posted, and we managed to find out what streets he was on, what path he took, and exactly where he was when the video ended, which is the last place he was seen, so to say. And some people from the Discord that lived in New York were going around searching for him.
Welcome to capitalism.
My parents at that same time were just about to go on a trip to New York. The day before Etika went missing, they left for their trip. And I chose not to go with them. Had I chose to go with them, I would have 100 million% joined the people in the Find Etika Discord that were like walking around the area that he had been last seen trying to find him. Wouldn't have found him, no doubt. But I would have joined them, and that would be, I guess, the closest to something like that you can imagine, where you're like going and meeting people on the internet to search for someone or something. Yeah, like the most dark and sad ARG imaginable. But yeah, I didn't end up being able to do that, but I would have. I definitely would have. There's no way if I was in New York, if like the stars had aligned to the point that I would have been in New York when that happened, that I would have been able to like not go looking. I would have felt like super guilty. Or like super, like that pit in your stomach feeling, and I wouldn't be able to sleep or eat or focus on anything if I wasn't like meeting up with those people and, doing something. Because I literally spent that whole time that he was missing, I didn't sleep, I barely ate, because I was super worried, I like this content creator, I think he's a cool guy, I don't want him to be dead. And I was watching this Lookner guy, I think his name was, this like live streamer dude who was just doing live coverage of any information that came out about like the search for him, and I was there watching live when it came out that they'd found his body. I basically spent 3 straight days watching that stream. I got like a wink of sleep when he did, because if he wasn't doing live coverage, then what was the point of being awake? So I went back, I'd sleep for a bit when he ended his thing, and he'd schedule the next one as soon as he ended it, so I'd get the next one ready, like up, and I'd turn up the volume really loud, so I'd wake up as soon as it started, and I'd wake up as soon as it started, like 6 hours later, 4 hours later, and I'd get right back on it. I'd be back at my computer drinking coffee and making sure that I'm awake, following every little detail. I remember there was like, Keemstar tweeted something about Etika's monitors being missing from his apartment, and I remember thinking, oh my god, maybe he's okay, maybe he like ran off somewhere, because like apparently his Switch and some monitors were missing from his apartment. Like, unfortunately, Keemstar was one of the few sources of information that there was back then. God, what a shit show that was. I took like a whole month off of streaming around that time, if I remember correctly. I was super depressed after Etika died. But yeah, all right. Anyway, listen, ARG stuff, and if you're gonna meet with somebody on the internet or meet with a group of people on the internet to go like looking for stuff, if like whether it be something like what I described or an ARG, be very careful. Don't dox people. Don't go calling actual real life businesses. Don't, for the love of God, be extremely cautious when you're meeting real life people. Meet in a public place with lots of people that's not seedy or shady. Make it safe. Do obvious things you can do to make a meetup like that safe. And make sure you know who you're talking to and that they are who they say they are before you even meet them in real life. Regardless, though, if you enjoyed this segment, please consider leaving a like if you want to support it, subscribe and ring the bell icon if you want to see more from me on my channel, and of course, if you want to follow me on my social media, it's all linked down below. And if you want to support me financially, you can do so by subscribing, gifting a sub, or donating over on my website. And you can also support me by donating on my YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Streamelements, or supporting me through Patreon. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and have a good one.